Last night she tweeted, quote, "People don't care about keeping the filibuster. People don't care about listening to the parliamentarian. People care about getting the relief they need. Do what it takes to raise the minimum wage to at least $15. And Congresswoman Cori Bush of Missouri joins me now. Congresswoman, first, let me start. You're going to have a vote tonight. I think it'll be your first vote on a major piece of legislation. There's been other legislation, the Equality Act, but this is the biggest thing that you will be voting on. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about where things stand?
I'm ready to get it done. I mean, we've been sitting and waiting, and I know, all of these things have to happen first. Tonight, we need to get this done. The American people sent us to Congress with a clear mandate, Chris. Do the absolute most we can to provide real relief to everyday people. True COVID-19 relief means raising the minimum wage to at least $15 per hour, no matter what the Senate parliamentarian says. Run us our money. That's what St. Louis and the country deserves. Nothing less.
You're someone I think you would say you come from a different background than a lot of the folks you're serving with, and from a different place and have different life experiences. And, I just from your perspective as someone I think who is closer to being a low wage worker trying to make ends meet with kids than a lot of your colleagues, what it would mean for the minimum wage to be raised for those kind of folks.
It is the difference between receiving your paycheck after the end of a week or biweekly and having money to pay all the bills or most of the bills versus having money to pay one of the bills and then deciding how much food can I buy, or do I buy a medication, or can I buy, what kind of toilet paper? The thing is, someone has asked one day, they said, well, how much, what about buying milk? Like, I hear there's this thing about buying milk. It's the difference between somebody going, where can I go get the $2.50 milk from, or what food pantry can I go to get my basic needs met? And then what do I have to go other places to get? Like, this is a real thing. What about shutoffs? I know what it's like to come home every day wondering, will there be a letter pasted to my door saying 10 days or, paying 10 days or vacate? Will my electricity be off when I make it home? Will there be a note saying that my gas was turned off? If you haven't lived like that, we're talking about $15, Chris. We're not talking about making anybody rich. This is the difference between life and death for people. Look, we're talking about communities also that have lived under decades of disinvestment. They don't care about Senate parliamentary procedures and a filibuster. They care that they can feed their families. They care that the lights are on and that there is heat, that there is water. They care about those things. And we owe that to the American people.
I've got a wake-up call for you if you're opposed to the $15 an hour wage increase, minimum wage. Let me explain. This is a Debate Me channel. Click on that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. So let's talk about $15 minimum wage. If you're against it, odds are very high that you are a victim of propaganda and misinformation. Always remember that in this country you have an elite class that consists of members in our government, and we're not talking about any deep state conspiracy type deals. It doesn't have to be that serious. Ultimately, it's just greed. But you have politicians, you have the 1% and the donor class, and you have our media, not just corporate anymore. Now we have independent media that also, in my view, are parts of the elite class. When I say elite, I'm referring to different groups of people who live in a different world from most of us. They're not subject to a lot of the concerns and issues and challenges that we have. A lot of it comes from their financial power that they have achieved through wealth. So, for example, politicians, $180,000 a year, that alone puts them well above the average American in terms of their income. Also, typically they're millionaires. I mean, poor millionaires. There might be 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, but still, they are multi-millionaires that are bringing in $180,000 a year, and they have this amazing job security thanks to we the people. I'll get into that in another video, but the short version is we the people are extremely tolerant of bad treatment. We are very digital in how we deal with these things. We'll tolerate increasingly bad behavior from our government or from our elected officials, and we'll just tolerate it as it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and then we have this kind of breaking point. There isn't a lot of nuance in terms of the worse they get, we start responding and pushing back, and they get more worse and we start pushing back. It's kind of like they can keep getting worse and worse and worse, and we don't really do much. We just talk on social media, we talk with our friends, we complain and we whine up until it gets to the point where it's a straw that broke the camel's back, and then there's a revolt. So that means basically we give the government essentially a blank check to do a lot of really bad things. Promise $2,000 checks immediately, completely don't deliver on it, and not really have a lot of pressure from the American people. There's no major outcry. There's no major, you promised us, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're going to vote you out. Like, none of that. We just kind of like, $1,400, that's pretty good. Right? So we're the ones that are greatly responsible for some of these things. These individuals are not with us, right? They're all about themselves, and they're all about money in their pocket. Greed. Giving us more money is not in their interest. They're not interested in that. Because remember, they all work together, right? So you have these 1%ers that are like the CEOs of these multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar companies. They're not looking to pay their employees more money. So the politicians that they donate to better not be trying to increase the salaries, right? Because your donors don't want that. So therefore you don't want that, right? And then media, especially independent, you have people like potentially Tim Pool and Blaze TV and maybe Brian Tyler Cohen, the Young Turks. Now, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so I don't want to call any names and say anybody's doing anything, but you'd be a fool if you don't think some of these people are getting paid, right? It happens in other sectors of YouTube, right? These unboxers, corporations will, or new companies, some of these Chinese companies, whatever it is, they will incentivize them behind the scenes. And then you think you're watching a review, but it's actually a paid thing, so basically it's a commercial. So definitely that happens in politics. So some of these YouTubers must be getting money behind the scenes from these politicians or from corporations. So they're all on the same page. $15 an hour is something that is not wanted from the elite class. And if you're part of the elite class, there's going to be pressure for you to push the narrative that it's a bad idea. Now, that being said, here's the reality of minimum wage. It's that we want the wage theft reversed. We used to make more money, right? If they had kept our salaries the same, minimum wage would be about $20, $22 an hour, right? They have been paying us less and less money over time. And this has been a long process, a long time. So people don't understand that effect. All they see is minimum wage is $7 and now they want to double it. That's insane. Right? It's kind of like you used to have 3 cars, right? And then I take one of the cars from you. Now you have 2 cars. And then I take another car from you. Now you only have 1 car. And now you're out here saying, I want 1 more car. Not even 2 more. I want 1 more car. Remember, you started with 3. I took 2 of them. And you're saying, I want 1 more car. And there's people complaining, double your cars? That's ridiculous. We're not going to double your cars. How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to find money to give you 2 cars? You want more cars? You should earn it. Right? You're not asking for more cars. You're asking for the cars back that were taken from you. So it's not that we want wages increased. We want the pay cuts reversed. And remember, how did they get the pay down to where it is now? Over time. So you have money coming into a company, right? Some of it goes to overhead, right? Some goes to paying management, right? Executive level, whatever. And then some of it goes to your workers, right? Your low-level workers. Over time, cost of living has gone up and executive pay has been increased. But they don't touch the pay for the workers, right? So cost of living goes up, executive pay goes up. Let's say top 5% pay goes up. So your high-level executives, your MBAs or whatever it is, top 5% in these corporations. And then everybody else at the lower level, pay stays the same. This has been one of the biggest scams in this country. To those workers, they don't recognize you. And the thing about it is the kind of person that would recognize this kind of thing is a manager. Managers, you're supposed to look at the big picture, right? As a lower level worker, you're more focused on your specific task. So workers come in and then you give them a job and they focus on that job that you're giving them to do. But a manager looks at the big picture. So the managers are the ones that would see the big picture of, because of technology, you're able to produce more, right, for less. So you can downscale your workforce. You don't need to hire as many people. And now that you're producing more products, you're bringing in more revenue, and then you can even enhance your profits even more by not messing with your lower level workers. Just leave their pays where they are, and they're so caught up in tunnel vision, they probably won't notice. I mean, that's the salary you've always made, right? That's what you've made. You were fine with it before. Why do you want to change it, right? You have to have a big picture. Cost of living is going up. Companies producing more. There's more money coming in. But instead of sharing that with the full workforce, you funnel most of it to your top level executives. So now here's the after effect. We've allowed this to happen for a very long time. The American people have been bamboozled. And now here is the bizarro world mentality. If we increase minimum wage, companies will go out of business and people will lose jobs. And that's the narrative they sell you. What they don't tell you is, if a business doesn't make enough profit to pay their workers a living wage, then that business is a failure, right? Let me give you an analogy so you can better understand. Imagine that we allowed people to pay $1 per hour. Do you know how many businesses I would start? If I could pay people $1 an hour and they would take that, man, I would be starting so many companies because I can afford it. $1 an hour? I could hire 10 people, and that's just $10 an hour. $80 a day. I could easily do that. $80 a day, that's your salary. That's a salary for a team of 10 people. Think about the amount of wealth that I can get from 10 workers when I'm only paying them $80. Now, you may say that's disgusting, and it is, to be paying people $1 an hour, right? But because the pay is so low, I actually don't have to be that good of a businessman. Think about that. If it's only costing me $80 an hour for a team of 10 people, the amount of money I can get from the work these 10 people can do would way cover the salaries. So that means I would get to pocket so much money. So in other words, I don't have to have that good of a product, right? My costs are so low that even a product that's really not that good, I could actually be very, very rich, right? But then if you say, wait a minute, $1 an hour, that's too low. Let's increase it to $7 an hour. Now all of a sudden, whoa, 7-time increase in salary? Now all of a sudden, the reality that my business sucks comes into play. And I'm like, oh, I can't afford this. I got to lay people off and then I shut my doors. But I didn't shut my doors because of minimum wage being increased. I shut my doors because my business sucks. The only reason why I was successful before is because I was stealing from my workers. Don't fall for it. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Don't believe the hype.